So let's start with how we actually got here. It was actually 4 months into our relationship, and I had this crazy idea. I'm like, let's go travel to Mexico. And in Tulum, we saw this little Volkswagen Bug, literally sitting at the edge of the freeway. No one around, nothing around, just jungle and like a couple cars passing by, and they were selling coffee. And I got this idea of like, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't like my job. I don't like being an accountant and in finance. So I looked at Tony and I was like, let's do something similar. Like, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to influence people to travel through the art of coffee. And we kind of like shelved it for a couple months, and then we happened to go to Europe. And at the top of the Scottish castle, we found this really cute Citroen HY just parked selling coffee. And again, it reminded us that's what we wanted to do. And I went on a mission, a real mission, to try to get this vehicle over into the United States. So grabbing this idea of selling coffee that inspires us to travel to those different locations became the primordial thing of our business. And importing Sunny, as she came to known, was a, how do I put it lightly?
A challenge.
The worst challenge that I have ever faced. It was just everything that you can think of, from laws, exporting, permits, making her into a food truck, and then really realizing what we wanted to do. Not only did it cost money, it cost patience, it cost strain between us, it caused a lot of things. But we did it, and at the end of the day, Farm Cup stands for drinking coffee, traveling the world, and also doing good, and we're trying to do our part every single day. Right in September 2019, we were driving all around Los Angeles, we were doing commercials, we were doing movies, we were doing all these things because Sunny was just it. And then March of 2020 happens. And slowly but surely, all of the things that we had built up until that point were gone. And then as the pandemic raged on and then as time went by, we just didn't know what else to do. And at one point we did think of selling Sunny. And she is such a big part of us that was a thought for like 10 minutes and then it went right out.
This is where West Hollywood comes in. So the big question on our minds is, how do we take a mobile food truck and make it into a permanent structure?
There's a lot of challenges involved. The most challenging part, at least for me, how are we gonna drive her in there?
That might be the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Sunny's now inside. We had to do a couple of modifications to Sunny. One, we had to weld Sunny literally to the ground so there's no movement. We've also had to hardwire all the electricity to Sunny and make all the water connections so that Sunny now has cold water, hot water, and of course, proper drainage. This is our office and podcast studio. You can see it's super bright in here from the 4 skylights. Right now, Prestige Drywall Systems is sanding all of the drywall. Eventually, there's going to be an art wall on the far wall from us now. You're going to see a banquette over here, and ultimately our podcast studio, where we will host interviews on Startup to Storefront.
In addition to recording the podcast in this space, we also plan to rent it out and host events here, dinner parties, things like that. So we needed a little break room / wine bar kitchenette. Super excited about this space.
So one of my favorite drinks on the menu, and probably one of the most popular, is the Poet. So this is a honey lavender latte that everyone orders either iced or hot. And I got the idea when I was in a coffee shop in San Diego, and they had a lot of different lattes that were floral inspired. So I tried this honey lavender latte, and it was probably the most unique latte I've ever had. And there was nowhere in our area that had the same drink. So when we were developing the menu, I was like, we have to have something very unique. And every time we garnish it with the lavender sprigs, it just brings a lot of extra joy to people, and we love seeing that. Even the way we name the drink, we'll usually call out the name, so like Tony, the poet. And people just think that's such a nice little added touch. They're like, oh yeah, I am a poet. So that's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite drinks on the menu.
Growing up in Mexico City, every morning is cold, it's chilly, you want to be under a blanket, you want to be comforted. And so coming into the coffee experience over here, I was like, how can I make that nostalgic feeling of Mexico City and bringing it over here? So I created The Artist, and it's basically my take on café de olla, which is a very typical breakfast drink crafted out of coffee. And so I wanted to create something more complex. When you think of an artist, you think of someone very mysterious, very cool, very different. And I wanted to craft something just as different as them. And so I used black pepper, cinnamon, oranges, allspice, cloves, and coffee into this mixture to really make sure that I brought out those flavors, that intensity of Mexico City, but also of an artist.
Can't get anything done around here with this guy. All right, are you done? Honestly, like, what the hell? Please get out of my shot.
What's going on at the end?
Anyway,